Hi, and welcome to the YouTube channel, newly formed. It's called Empowerment. Life is hard, art helps. I'm Chloe Lauer, and I'm here with you today by divine appointment, having just been initiated as a healer today after a 2-year journey of ascension of some sort following a spiritual awakening. And so I wanted to share my story with you in the hopes that it could support you on your journey, and then share a little bit about what I'm planning to offer in this channel. Or maybe I'll make that a separate video if this one goes too long, so you don't have to wait till the end to find out. So yeah, I'm just going to start with 2 years ago and not go too much further back. We can always talk more later. I can't wait to hear your stories as well. So 2 years ago, I was living in San Francisco, California, in Russian Hill, very beautiful neighborhood. I had a wonderful life. I was an urban planner by training. I received my master's degree in urban planning 15 years ago, actually, from Harvard University's Graduate School of Design. And following that, I moved to San Francisco to follow my heart and my dreams and be an urban planner living this beautiful city life in a spectacular place. So fast forward, that was 2004. 2017 comes, and there's lots that happen in the meantime, but like I said, that's for another story. I was content. I had a doting boyfriend who was really wonderful and would pick me up from the airport when I would come back from frequent travels. I also had a wonderful job where I was appreciated and respected and paid well. I worked at an architecture company as the director of strategy. So that's basically managing and mentoring lots of projects at different scales using design and strategic thinking in partnership with one another. And also data enabled design, data analysis, and human-centered design thinking. These were some of the systems thinking. That's like looking at things from a holistic standpoint and finding all of the inputs and then the related outputs and how the whole thing works together as a system. I worked a lot with master planning for colleges and universities and also K through 12 school districts. So it was very meaningful work, very thoughtful work, and also expressive creative work. So it integrated my left brain and my right brain. And I had been at that company since 2005. So I was like part of the institution, like really knit together in the fabric of the institution. And to that end, I was in conversation with the owners to become a partner of the organization. And that was a great honor because I definitely respected and continue to respect the amazing work that they do. And they were one of the pioneers in applying data to design and really having the functionality be supporting the people of the building, like the occupants, and what they wanted to do and their vision for their organization, rather than just, something where an architect wants to please him or herself and make a beautiful design that doesn't actually support the occupants in fulfilling their mission and vision. So we did a lot of like interviews, observations to see how space was being used today, and then came up with strategies for how existing space, more often than not, could be optimized for future use so that the space was no longer just a backdrop for what was happening, but it was actually in the foreground as like a key player in having these people's lives and organizations and missions thrive and succeed. So it was great. Of course, there were always challenges and days when I didn't feel into it, or, you know, wondering if I really wanted to commit to being a partner and become, you know, such a integral member. I felt like the commitment was kind of like going to be like another 10 years at least, um, to really see that through. And that felt daunting to me at the time. So anyway, so that was kind of my professional life. I talked about my personal life in terms of my boyfriend. I also had a really rich community, which I still have there, of friends and different groups that I had built over the, I guess at that point, 13 years that I had been there. You know, everything from a meditation group to yoga communities, to friends from Landmark worldwide. I did a lot of personal growth work, to like neighbors and coworkers. So I was really, and family. I had the privilege of living next to my aunt and uncle for a while, just like 4 blocks away in Russian Hill. It was just so amazing to like walk home and look up and be like, oh, there's my aunt and uncle, and know that I could call them up and stop by for dinner on Sunday. So I was content, and I also was doing a lot of traveling, having returned from a trip around the world where I took time off in 2013, basically like a 10.5 month sabbatical. Travel was really knit into my bones at that point and became an integral part of my life. And so I continued, rather than that journey around the world satiating my travel desires, it actually increased them because I felt so much more confident and competent in my abilities to travel. And so to that end, I was taking like any vacation I could and traveling abroad because, as a single person without kids and having enough disposable income, that was a privilege that I enjoyed. And hadn't always enjoyed, because for a big chapter, which maybe I'll share later, I was dealing with chronic illness and taking a lot of time and money to heal myself from Crohn's disease, with the help of a lot of healers and integrative practices. And then on top of that, I was also paying off my graduate school loans. So there was definitely a period of time when I was much more inwardly focused and like buckled down in my finances. And so this felt really great to have this expansive time. So there I was in like October of 2017. And yeah, I thought everything was great. It was around Halloween time, and I planned a surprise birthday party for my boyfriend and even like met his family and worked with them on the birthday party, and it went well. And we did this amazing costume together. So I was like, life is good. um, I then, this is when it all starts. I took my first Landmark Wisdom vacation course, and it's called Structural Connections. And in Structural Connections, we were looking at how we physically express ourselves in the world through our bodies, how we walk into a room, how we hold our posture, how we sit or stand, and where we sit in relationship to groups, in relationship to others. And, do we sit in the front of the room, in the back of the room? If that's standing room only, are we in the middle? Are we on the edge? Do we hang by the wall? Do we not even enter? And to do this, we did a lot of like exercises, like where we were walking around the room and playing games. We also rode horses, and I learned so much from my horse. My horse taught me just like this huge life lesson that we each have our own timing, because I always wanted to be ahead of the game, being a straight A student and an achiever and very dedicated to my studies, going to Harvard and then doing well in my profession. I felt like, at least in many areas of life, if I just set my mind to it and put my will and effort into it, I could succeed. But one area of life where that wasn't the case was romance. And so no matter what course I took, I was always wanting to create like a shift or transformation in the area of romance. although with this course, I wasn't focused on that because I had this boyfriend. And so it was kind of like such a great relief. Like I didn't go into it thinking like, oh, maybe I'll meet someone here, or, oh, woe is me. It like I went into it in a very stable place in terms of romance and also career. When I'm looking back on it, I can see that now. And finances. You know, I was able to afford this course that seemed pricey to me at the time. For a week, it was way more than I'd spent on anything for 1 week, but it turned out to be like completely life-changing. So totally worth every penny. So anyway, this was like in Tucson, Arizona at a dude ranch owned by a family, and it was just delightful. So what my horse would not stay in the front or even go near the front of the line. It was always wanting to be at the back. And not only like at the back, but like as far away from the second to last horse as you could even get. I couldn't get it to go anywhere. So I was like 50 feet behind all the other horses thinking, I want to be in front. I want to be in front. But of course, that horse was teaching me a lesson. The lesson that I learned was that no matter where you are, you know, in the lineup of life or the sequence of life, you still have the same view. And you may as well enjoy it. Because, you know, we were riding by these gorgeous desert views with like these saguaro cactuses and just like beautiful mountains in the distance. And it didn't matter like whether you were the first person or the fifth person or the 10th person, because you're all on the same path, you know, looking at the same view. And so I realized it didn't matter if I saw, you know, that part of the vista or that certain cactus like 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later, I still had the privilege of seeing it and enjoying it. So that was my life lesson, because for so long I had been struggling with like, why do I not have the family? Why do I not have the kids? Like I'm not following these sequences of life. And somehow this part of my life that's the like independent woman, adult part of my life got really prolonged. You know, like I wanted some of that, you know, like when I started college, I thought I would marry someone right out of college. But then looking back, even, you know, as early as age 25, I was really glad I didn't. But then every year after that, I thought, well, I've had enough of this independence. Like now, maybe I'll meet someone, maybe I'll meet someone, maybe I'll settle down, maybe I'll settle down. And it just didn't happen and didn't happen and didn't happen. So it became like a big wound for me that I'm, you know, still healing. Thankfully, feel like I've healed that sacred wound of Crohn's disease, and it's enlightened me in so many ways, which I can share more about later. But this romance, this was like a festering wound, which I guess only had like a Band-Aid at the time with my boyfriend. Maybe at the time I didn't know that, but now looking back, I think that's what the truth was. So let's see, where was I? So I'm at this course, learning so much from the horses already. And then there were a couple other big life lessons that I had to learn. One of which was that even though I had done so much work with the Crohn's disease, I still believed that there was something fundamentally wrong with my body. And that I was just broken, just physically broken. And so through this sorting exercise, I was able to transform that from there's something fundamentally wrong with my body, which I really fervently believed was like the truth. Like you couldn't convince me that there was any other way of seeing it. But in the exercise, we were sorting all our thoughts and feelings and emotions and sensations into these buckets. And there was no bucket that said the truth. And I was so frustrated. I'm like, but it's the truth. I want a bucket to say the truth. But there wasn't one. So I had to put everything into like memories from the past or thoughts or feelings or physical sensations. And eventually I unraveled it all so much that I came to a new understanding, which is that I'm specially equipped to take exquisite care of myself. And that was so profound and healing for me. That was really the completion of that journey. So then the third thing that I learned in this course was that my stature has nothing to do with the impact or influence I can have on the world. And so I'm 5'2" and change. And I always thought I should be taller, because even my mom, who's petite, is taller than I am. And my dad was like 5'10" before he shrunk a little bit in his later years. And my brother is like 5'10", and a lot of people in my family are tall. I'm definitely the shortest cousin, I think, female cousin. And I was just like angry about it. I'm like, if I hadn't had Crohn's right when I should have been having a growth spurt, like I would have been taller. And my mom's legs are even longer than mine. My torso is longer than hers, but I just had so much around it. Like my legs didn't grow. And if my legs would have been in proportion to my torso, then I would have been at least a few inches taller. And like, I'm not in proportion. My torso is too long and my legs and my arms are too short. Cause like sleeves are always, too long for me. So in fact, with this one, I cut it off because it was bothering me. Anyway, so what was I saying? Yeah, so that was a big deal because I learned in the course and I was able to complete this outdated belief and shift my belief to knowing that I am powerful, I am influential, and I do have the ability to make a big impact in the world, one-on-one and even in large groups. And so that was really big for me. But all of this is not the biggest thing that happened at that course, because what occurred was that I met this guy. And don't get too excited. It's not like a beautiful love story ending, but he turned out to be the biggest catalyst for me and is at least part of my soul family, if not maybe was a twin flame at one point or another. It felt like he was a twin flame at that point, although at the time I had no language for that and hadn't even really heard the word or been part of the community yet. So I met this man and it just seemed like we had such an instant affinity. It was just so pleasant to be around him. We had so much to talk and share about. And he just became like attached at my hip. And I kept thinking at some point he's going to get bored, and like not want to hang around all the time. But he just kept coming like everywhere I went. There he was. Even times when I'm like, oh, I'm going to run back to my room and get my hat. He's like, oh, I'll come with you. Remember, you also wanted your sunscreen. Like he was so just there and present, and what a great companion and supportive. He was helping me keep track of my life, and he found me to be so competent as well that it was refreshing for him, because I think in the past he had been with women where he had to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and he was like, whoa, you're so competent. Like, I don't even need to keep track of this stuff. But, if I do, it's like, it's nice because you find it to be helpful. And so I was practicing receiving and not having to track everything. And he was enjoying like more of an equal partnership for that short period of time. But, of course it was tinged with challenge because I was, dating my boyfriend at the time, and I didn't want to cheat on him. So this whole time I was spending time with this other man, without getting physical with him, I still felt like emotionally I was doing something wrong. Like I was cheating on my boyfriend emotionally in terms of like my excitement in like talking with him and sharing our stories and playing games together. Like it was so playful. There was something like really precious and childlike about it. Like it was our inner boy and our inner girl. Like we played games together. We played Legos together. Like we listened to old songs on the jukebox together. It was just really fun. We took walks. Oh yeah, we played horseshoes and like took photographs, and I saw my first shooting star. So this awakened in me this desire for this type of like companionship. And all of a sudden my wonderful boyfriend, he felt still wonderful, but like there was something missing in our partnership, something missing in our connection that this other man had pointed me toward. And so I went back to San Francisco, and at the time I didn't realize it, but I was going to start to unravel every single structure in my life. So the course was called Structural Connections. And I always joke, like, for me, it was like the destruction of structure. I became like Kali, the goddess from the Hindu tradition, where she's just like fierce and she just tears things apart. I feel like I created my own tower moment rather than like waiting for a tower moment to happen to me. And so that felt really empowering. So within the span of just a month and only maybe 6 weeks 6 weeks between when I started this course, Structural Connections, and then when I did all these things that I'm about to tell you, it would happen really fast. So I got back, broke up with my boyfriend. Then I was still in the conversation to become a partner, still thought I was pursuing that. But then all of a sudden, cooperative component, right, is my friend at work resigned. And he was in that same conversation to become a partner. And so all of a sudden, it was actually the second resignation that was significant. Another colleague had resigned in September, kind of leading up to this October and early November course. So I decided I didn't want to do this without my colleagues. Like, I didn't want to move forward in partnership, being the only partner, only new partner, and the only woman. Well, my colleague was a man, but he was just like so wonderful and supportive. I felt really comfortable with him, and I wanted to do it like together with somebody else. And so after not having a boyfriend anymore, I felt less attached to San Francisco. And then when my colleague resigned, I felt less attached to work. And then I resigned. I resigned a week after my colleague resigned. So much happened in that period of 2017 fall. Like, I actually broke up with my boyfriend on 11/11/2017. So that's 11/11/11. And then at that point, I got back into touch with a dear friend of mine who actually has a very well followed YouTube channel here. Her name is Erica Elmutz. I'll put a link below to her channel. And I was speaking with her on the phone, sharing with her all about this man that I had met and all these changes that were going on in my life. And she just gently suggested, like, maybe you want to check out my YouTube channel. She had just started posting twin flame videos. And so there I was in my apartment in San Francisco, started listening to her video, and I was like, oh my God, I feel so recreated by this. Everything you're saying, like, exactly is what I'm feeling that's going on with me and this guy. So then I decided that he was my twin flame. So I kind of lived with that belief for a while. I don't really think that anymore necessarily. I think he's a catalyst more, and maybe part of my soul family, or maybe he was a twin flame but opted out of that dynamic. Because I kind of see this all as more fluid now. But at the time, like, that gave me so much hope, like joining that community and listening to the videos and like knowing that there was this grander thing going on besides me feeling like crazy. Like, I started to have moments where I think I was disassociating with reality, and where like I would hear sounds and feel like this warping going on. And I started listening to all of those like healing sounds on YouTube that are like at like 432 hertz and 938 hertz, like all these healing sounds of the universe that correspond with chakras and ascension. And like listening to those was like literally the only thing that was grounding me at that point. I was just going through so much upheaval and having like extremely vivid dreams that were really profound. And in one of them, I felt distinctly twice. This happened 2 times in the middle of the night. Actually, it was the night before I moved out of my apartment, so it felt also very significant and timely. I felt the whole universe like moving through my body. And so that's like this whole period is what I refer to as my spiritual awakening. I felt like my life was this huge ocean with all these waves on the surface, but that if I would dive down and go deep, I could find solace and stillness. And so I did that a lot. I just went deep, and it was aided by listening to those healing sounds on YouTube, and then also the video and having friends like Erica to talk with. And so in this spaciousness that arose after resigning from my job and not having these ties anymore to San Francisco, what arose was a desire that I had forgotten, which was to do a road trip across the country. So I'm from the East Coast and had lived in California all this time, but I had never driven across. I had always flown. And so became what I did. I bought a Honda Civic, having formerly been a car-free urbanite. And it was a 2007. It came to me so easily. Well, there were some challenges, but ultimately it came through my yoga community and was just like the perfect car for me. So reliable and also affordable. I didn't have to take out a loan. I could pay for it in cash. There was like so much divine intervention along the whole journey. And I had also already been enrolled in the passive income manifesting system with my teacher, Laurie-Anne King. I'll link below to her site. She created the program Orgasmic Manifesting, which was also a huge part of my journey. And that's how I met my friend Erica. We were, like accountability sisters in organic manifesting. So in passive income manifesting system, Laurie-Anne taught us how to make our own online courses. And so I was inspired that I could create an income for myself and step into that place of, leadership and teaching everything I've learned about travel. So that's where I created my first course, which is called the Transformational Travel Program. And I did it like while I was on this journey around the country, visiting national parks and visiting friends and family and connecting with myself and the vast expanses of beauty in this country. I got so many downloads on the road that I was constantly doing voice memos for the content in my course. And then I would stop and like stay a couple days in a place and like, in a very focused way, develop slides for each module, release a module, one module every week, and just stay like one step ahead of the students who were in my beta program. And so it was in this way, that I ended up driving 10,000 miles over 100 days around the country, like across the country and then back across the country. So it's funny, I set out to do a cross-country road trip and I ended up doing it twice. So yes, always a little bit of that like achiever still there, even though I'm on this spiritual path. And at that point, I faced this like black hole. Like when I got back to San Francisco, I'm like, well, what now? Like, I don't know what to do. I just finished this huge dream and nothing is yet clear. And that's how it's been. So that was like May of 2018 when I completed my clear vision of what I set out to do. And since May of 2018 until now, it's just been like, one step at a time in the dark. Further and further out into the ocean of the unknown. And with so many times, I just feel like there's no more way I can go. I can't take the next step. I don't know. It's like even what to do. And especially, I don't know how long it's been, but I keep feeling like I'm being fed through the eye of the needle, just that like tiny hole that I have to somehow get through. But I've been in that place for so long. It just felt so dark. And yesterday was just really dark again. I just felt so sad and empty. And then today it was this like revelation and now it's all making sense. So there's so much that happened since May of 2018, but I'll try to summarize. The next chapter was, I dated this guy and we moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico. That was volatile in terms of our relationship. And like, it started out really sweet and profound. And then it got really intense and fiery. And I was like, where's this coming from? I've never had such friction before. And then that ended really abruptly in late August after about maybe 3.5 months. And like the night before, I flew to Oaxaca, Mexico, which is a place we had planned on going together, but it turns out I was meant to go there on my own. So in Oaxaca, I continued to work remotely on my program and developed like my website and launched my program on Teachable, and was studying Spanish and ended up meeting somebody there who I taught yoga to in the park. And that was like super profound. I think he was my angel and I was his angel. So I continued to, have these profound experiences along the way. The light is changing here. Like, where should I sit? Trying to look into the camera so I can connect with you. I know that people do like long stories, so I hope you all are okay with this long-windedness. You can stop watching at any time. Yeah, there was a lot of time in Mexico. I kept coming back. My friends got married there. I was in the wedding. Then I had the privilege of being interviewed on television in San Francisco. But all throughout this, I felt lost. And I was starting to have hot flashes. So even though I had just healed this wound regarding Crohn's, I now had this new wound that like something is wrong with me and I'm starting menopause early. Because at the time I was 39 and I still like, you know, have a desire to have children. So that was really, really challenging for me to start having hot flashes and know that I was hormonally, you know, probably crossing this threshold from perimenopause into full-blown menopause. And so there was a lot of grief around that, and also just discomfort, you know, and frustration, and also financial concern. You know, throughout this period I was living on my savings, and then, you know, the bit of income from selling the course, which I, you know, hadn't been able to successfully scale yet. And also doing some consulting with an amazing project called the Inn at Moonlight Beach in Encinitas, California, which later became the first well building certified hotel in the world, which is also another story. So besides being trained as an urban planner, I've also been trained in leadership in environment and energy design and well building certifications. And so these are LEAD promotes the health of the planet and the environment, and WELL builds on that and promotes the health and wellness of the inhabitants of a building, the people. And so it's looking at all of the influences, air, water, light, and how the either quality of those or lack of quality either positively or negatively impacts our different systems, cardiovascular, endocrine, reproductive, all of these systems. So I studied and became well certified in 2016. And then my friend from graduate school invited me to support her in implementing the standard at her inn. It's basically like a bed and breakfast in this beautiful part of Southern California where I now live. So like, I could have never told you 2 years ago that I would A, live here, not in the city, B, have a car. I was like really proud of not having a car and walking everywhere. C, you know, have lived for basically 2 years without a full-time job and still have food on the table. And D, live in Southern California in like the suburbs in a subdivision and like it, you know. And now my Honda Civic actually got totaled right after my road trip. It was like divine timing and perfect because I got the money for the car and then didn't need it because I was flying around the country and the world and living that digital nomad lifestyle. But now I have a really cute yellow Honda Fit that I really love. It's called Bright Buzz. And you can rent it on Get Around if you're in the area of Carlsbad. So look it up, Bright Buzz on Get Around. Whoa, so much. Anyway, you know, last fall was really hard because I was ready to be settled. I was tired of being a nomad. I mean, at that point, it hadn't been a full year because I left on 2/9/2018, so February 9th. My last day at work was 2/2, February 2nd, 2018. And yeah, I just so longed to have a home, but I didn't know where it should be. But I did keep finding myself being this boomerang that kept coming back to this part of California. I got to get some water. Okay. So yeah, I was longing for a home, but still not grounded in one. And over the holidays had 2 weeks where I had the privilege of house sitting for my cousins in Los Angeles. And then I felt like restored. And so I went on a 3.5 week trip around Southeast Asia, which had me then feeling depleted again and kind of empty about travel. Like, why was I so into it? When really I had been more happy looking out the same window in Los Angeles for 2 weeks and really having a very simple life. So that was a bit of a wake up call. At that point, I was also connected with the Transformational Travel Council and its founder, Jake Haupert, who had invited me up to collaborate with him and Eric Rupp on some things for their mentorship program. So I continued the nomad life, and after taking like a sensuality workshop in San Francisco that reawakened my interest in sexuality, I then went up to Seattle and was there for a couple of weeks, also house sitting for another friend, and then meeting up with Jake and Eric. And it was pretty soon after that when I came back to Encinitas yet again, around April, and I declared, like, I'm going to move here. And so then in late April, I got all my stuff from storage and drove in a U-Haul down here, and through a series of, beautiful serendipitous connections, landed in this gorgeous place with views and in the hills and Carlsbad and palm trees, and a wonderful housemate. So I'm so happy to be here. But even here, I felt lost because I was still looking for like that grounding force. I was working part-time at the inn, still continuing my work with the Transformational Travel Program, and even now have a partner, a business partner, and we are creating an umbrella company called Travel Sesame. But inside of all of that, I was just really feeling at a loss, and also, for the first time in my adult life, had to ask my parents for help with a loan because I came to the end of my savings. And I'm like, what is this spiritual path? I'm dedicating myself to this 100%. What is happening? And when is this going to turn around? And it just kept getting darker and darker the last couple of weeks or months. I don't know. I've been crying like once a week or crying at least every 10 days. And just, I'll get spurts of energy and like get back into it, but then I'll feel listless again, and like I've lost my drive, and like life doesn't have any meaning anymore, and I don't believe in travel, or I don't believe in self-actualization. It's bankrupt. We need to be about each other and about community and about connection. And I guess also turning 40, I feel like I've reached this new chapter in life where I really want to be much more grounded, and I'm willing to put down roots somewhere and willing to have a little bit of, monotony, or just, more routine, because I find it very grounding, and focus like more on family and, maybe adopting a child or something. And so recently I was out on the East Coast visiting my family, and I just came back on the airplane just like heartbroken, to have so many homes in the world. Like after my travels, I created this idea, or it's not a new idea, but I had integrated the experience that I'm at home wherever I am because I'm at home with myself. And that was really powerful for me. And also that I belong here, there, and everywhere. The whole world is my neighborhood. So that was really important to me. But then I was starting to feel like the opposite of it. Like, no, I don't belong everywhere. Like, there is value to belonging to one place. I want to become more like not Henry Nouwen. There's another author. I'll have to write it in the notes later, who's so dedicated to one place. And so I just didn't know up from down, and instead of having my heart feel wide because I loved so many people around the world and around the country, I felt like my heart was shattered into 1,000 pieces in all these different relationships and connections that I had. My cousins spread around the country, and everyone I've met in my travels spread around the world. And, my Bay Area people where I still feel like home when I'm there, which is a privilege to have so many homes, but I just wasn't seeing the upside. I was just feeling the darkness of it and the brokenness of it, and then wanting to gather like everybody that I love in one place, and like what would that be like, and is it even possible, and where would it be anyway? Like, is it the Bay Area and going back there? What about all my new friends and my nascent community here? And then also, what about the East Coast and like my family, my nuclear family there? Like, where would I pick and where would I be? And it just felt so heavy and uncertain. And I'm like, oh, is this what a midlife crisis / opportunity looks like? Because I really felt like I was going through it. Um, and at the same time, I still, you know, believe that I'm a light being and I'm here to spread love and healing and light and joy, and to delve into those dark places and mine, the rich soil, and excavate from everything in the earth that we've been fertilizing through our pain and our suffering. So, but I hadn't fully stepped into myself as like a healer. And another thing was the digital world was just also seeming really empty to me, like writing emails to email lists and like posting on Instagram. I know it's great and I know I'll continue to do it. And I'm here on YouTube and it's digital, but I was just missing like that, like working with people in person. And so today everything changed because I got initiated as a healer. I had studied vortex energy healing. Oh, that was part of this long journey of 2 years. As last August, I studied vortex energy healing on the recommendation of my teacher, Laurie-Anne King. And, but I didn't really do anything with it. It was just sitting in my back pocket, like unused really. And it started to awaken a little bit last time I was in San Francisco, because I did an exchange with my friend Wouter Lanus, who is a money coach. You can also post him here. And he's offering healing work as well. And he really loved this session and sent me a video testimonial. Oh, and by the way, this is not a real engagement ring. I just really like it. So I ordered it from China on Instagram. So I guess I do like Instagram. It's just really fun to wear. Anyway, I'm engaged to myself and to life. Okay, yeah. So Wouter was like, why aren't you doing this vortex stuff? I was like, I don't know. I don't know where I would do it. I don't know who I would do it for. Like, yeah. So then also divine appointment, right? I have a friend here named Brittany who I met through Full Moon Circle, which she leads every month at Lemongrass Spa and Center in Encinitas. And Brittany is amazing. She's a total light worker. And I think we're in the same soul family. And I was just drawn to her session, and she walks the medicine wheel. That's one of her gifts that she brings people. And so, yeah, we had full moon on Sunday. I walked the medicine wheel with her again. There's a lot moving with this Aries full moon, and that had been really, ramping up over the last 2 weeks. And we arranged that she was going to actually offer me a session this morning. But it turns out she was going through so much that we did the reverse. And I was like, why don't you come over and I'll cook you breakfast and then offer you vortex. So she comes over and I cook her breakfast and it's wonderful. And we start doing vortex. And normally when I do vortex, it's silent, like there's not a conversation. I'm just channeling the divine energy, healing energy that exists in the world, and responding to this person's needs. And then their body is really doing the healing and the integration, and they won't take anything that they're not ready for. So it can't hurt them in any way. They'll just reject the energy or part of the energy if they don't want it. And it's very pure and loving energy. And so she asked, oh yeah, usually it's silent. And then afterwards, like we talk together about, well, what did you experience? And what did I experience? And usually I see visions, and I see a lot of colors during the healing as the healing shifts. But I don't usually say them out loud. and till the end. And then sometimes it's really interesting because like what I was experiencing, what they were experiencing seemed to like kind of be in parallel. Well, Brittany asked if she could speak and share what she was seeing during the healing. And I said, yes. And at first I said, I'm just going to listen. But then I realized like we were seeing the same thing. And at the beginning, part of it was a soul retrieval where she saw this car accident and part of her soul got splintered off. And I was seeing the exact same picture. I could see her soul, that part of her soul splintered off and floating around in a big circle and then coming back because it was getting retrieved through this energy healing and integrating into her. And she was sitting in the right side of the car with the wheel in her hand. So representing, you know, like masculine empowerment and like she's in the driver's seat, she's in control of her life. And yet it was interesting because the wheel was on the right side and the car was also on the right side, you know. So that was just like one fragment of it. But she was like, oh my God, Chloe, you know, you're facilitating this soul retrieval. Like, this is what you're meant to do. I was like, whoa. And I felt so satisfied after it. I was like, this was amazing. I want to do this more. I'm going to start offering sessions and sharing Brittany's space with her. I'm really excited about that. So if you're local to the Encinitas, Carlsbad area and you're interested in some energy work or tarot reading or art therapy, definitely let me know. I will link Calendly below. I'm going to be taking appointments 3 days a week. So anyway, this all just happened today. It's like super fresh. And I felt this like energy channeling through me the whole day. So with the YouTube, I got inspired that I could share these drawings that I've been doing and then do a tarot reading for the drawing. And it might serve the collective because maybe we're moving through similar energies. And if you want to start processing your emotions also through art, I think it would be an amazing outlet. So my next video, I will share with you yesterday's artwork, which was on the theme of empowerment, which is the theme for the Transformational Travel Tea Party, virtual tea party that I created. I created the whole, you know, agenda for these tea parties last January, and it feels like divine appointment. Like each theme has been so right on for like what's happening, the energies of the month. So this one is empowerment. And honestly, yesterday I was struggling with it. I was like, I don't feel empowered at all. I feel completely shitty. I feel so sad. I feel at a loss. I don't know like what I'm doing, why I'm here, and how to move forward, or even what that would look like, or what I want in my life. And yeah, so after crying and just going through it, it was all triggered by a massage from one of my other healing sisters where it just moved a lot of energy and the sadness arose again. I would just started drawing out how I was feeling. And I was like, you know, this actually represents empowerment. There's darkness and light. There's this divine play at work here. And so I still don't really know what empowerment means from a cognitive sense. Of course, I can look up the definition, but I know how it felt and how it was channeled through this drawing. So I'm excited to share that with you. And then today's drawing, which I'll also share in a separate video, it's all about initiation, because today I have been initiated as a hands-on healer. And so we'll see how that interacts with, you know, this digital work and the online course and these virtual tea parties. So, but I'm really excited to start doing one-on-one work in person here in Encinitas and Carlsbad. So if you are in this protracted state of being an adult single woman, I just want you to know you're not alone. It is a uniquely appointed journey. And, you know, I'm still in the middle of it. And secondly, if you have had a spiritual awakening and you feel like you've been doing the work, you've been doing the healing work, you're going through it, you don't know where you're going, and it feels like you get further and further out into the ocean of the unknown and you feel like you're going to sink, you're not alone either. I have been there as recently as yesterday, and I feel like I was there for the last like 18 months. So it will pass, and there is hope. So that's it for today. Please let me know where you're at in your journey, and if this story has served you. So, as Erica likes to conclude, in abundant love always. Bye, friends.